Hello and welcome back to my vlog. We're now off on a different tangent. Essays on the Constitution of the United States, published during its discussion by the people, 1787 to 1788, edited by Paul Leicester Ford, Brooklyn, New York, Historical Printing Club, 1892, Part 1, Introduction. And these are essays that I am almost positive were not included in the Federalist Papers or the Anti-Federalist Papers. So, here we go with the introduction. In 1888, the editor selected from the pamphlet arguments published during the discussion of the Constitution of the United States prior to its ratification by the states, a collection of 14 tracts, and printed them in a volume under the title of Pamphlets on the Constitution of the United States. The reception given that collection clearly proved that these writings were only neglected because of their rarity and inaccessibility, and has induced the editor to collect another, though largely similar, class of writings which he believes of equal value and equally unknown. In the great discussion which took place in the years 1787 and 1788 of the adoption or rejection of the Constitution of the United States, one of the important methods of influencing public opinion resorted to by the partisans and enemies of the proposed frame of government was the contribution of essays to the press of the period. The newspapers were filled with anonymous articles on this question, usually the product of the great statesmen and writers of that period. Often of marked ability, and valuable as the personal views of the writers, the dispersion and destruction of the papers that contained them have resulted in their almost entire neglect as historical or legal writings, and the difficulty of their proper use has been further increased by their anonymous character, which largely destroyed the authority and weight they would have carried had their true writers been known. From an examination of over 40 files of newspapers and many thousand separate issues scattered in various public and private libraries from Boston to Charleston, the editor has selected a series of these essays and reprinted them in this volume. From various sources he has obtained the name of the writer of each. All here reprinted are the work of well-known men. 5 of the writers were signers of the Declaration of Independence. 7 were members of the Federal Convention, many were members of the state conventions, and there discussed the Constitution. All had had a wide experience in law and government. Their arguments are valuable not merely for their reasoning, but from their statement of facts. New light is thrown upon the proceedings in the Federal Convention, so large a part of which is yet veiled in mystery, and personal motives and state interests are mercilessly laid bare, furnishing clues of both the support of and opposition to the Constitution. Subsequently, most of the writers were prominent in administering this Constitution or opposing its development, and were largely responsible for the resulting tendencies of our government. Paul Leicester Ford, Brooklyn, New York, April 1892. So we start off with the Letters of Cassius, written by James Sullivan, printed in the Massachusetts Gazette, September to December 1787. Note: the letters signed Cassius were, at the time of publication, generally accredited to the pen of James Sullivan, and this opinion is adopted in Amory's Life of James Sullivan. The letters themselves bear out this opinion, being clearly written by a partisan of the Hancock faction, of whom Sullivan was a warm adherent and constant newspaper essayist. The first 2 letters were printed before the promulgation of the proposed Constitution in Massachusetts, and chiefly relate to the differences between the 2 parties headed by John Hancock and James Bowdoin, but are included here to complete the series. The letters are of particular value as given the position of Hancock, of whom Sullivan was the particular mouthpiece, proving him to be a supporter of the adoption of the Constitution, though the contrary has often been asserted. The early letters were commented upon by Old Fog in the Massachusetts Sentinel of September 22nd and October 6th, 1787. We'll pick up tomorrow with Cassius 1. Make it a great day, and bye for now.